Cherami Leigh. She's a awesome voice actress.
Oh, thank you.
Who's also done some live action.
I haven't
shows indeed. Like if you haven't seen, I haven't seen Where You Were in Friday Night Lights, but that's an amazing show if you haven't seen it yet. So
it's a really good show.
So I actually wanted to ask you about that because I like the show. So finished watching all of it. What was it like working on a show like that?
It was super cool. I actually auditioned for the pilot for one of the other characters, and though I was older than a couple of people in the cast, I was younger than the majority, and I definitely looked younger. So I just kept auditioning, and then finally I got cast as Jenny Warwick because it shot in Austin, so I lived in Texas. And Jenny Warwick is kind of like the nerd valedictorian girl who wants to be the overachiever, and similar, what I was told is they wanted something similar to Reese Witherspoon in the movie Election.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I got to work on. It was great. I mean, we shot everything so fast. The cast was super, super awesome. I did have about 300 extras that were supposed to be there while I'm giving my speech, and they all had to boo me, and it was really sad because my character did not win. And at one point, they had actually written me back to come back for another episode, and unfortunately, I was unable to do the subsequent episode, and I guess it could have led to more, but I was at an anime convention, so I wasn't able to do it.
Now, what do you think the difference is for you when you're doing the live action type shows versus doing voice acting?
I think the preparation, it's just like in preparing for the audition or preparing for the work is different. As far as like the acting, the only difference would be that when you're doing a cartoon, you have to bring this animated character to life. Quite honestly, you have to make them have like life in their eyes, so there's a lot more energy, and you can try to expel more. For like on-camera work, I don't necessarily have to do that unless it's a comedy and the character has to be larger than life. Generally, they're like, you know, you have a camera this tight, you got to do the less, the more real, the better, so that people aren't like, why is she making crazy faces or making her eyes do weird things? But as far as like preparing for the audition, for a voiceover audition, or an animation audition, I often just have the script, which is like 6 or 7 lines, and a picture of what the character might look like, and sometimes I don't even have a picture. So I have a lot more imagination that goes into it, and I have to figure out like how they would move, what I think they would sound like. For a film audition, they give us a breakdown, which tells us like the age of what they're looking for. Sometimes they'll say, well, we want a younger version of, like for Friday Night Lights, a young Reese Witherspoon in Election. So you have things to reference, what they're looking for, the types that they want, and that's how they decide. Your agent will send in like, oh, I think that my client could play this kind of person based on the breakdown. The casting director will call you in, and then you have to create an outfit of like what you think that person would wear, and how you think they would do their makeup, and the jewelry they would wear, and things like that. So that kind of stuff, I mean, I would never think about what the makeup would look like or what the character would wear when I'm doing voiceover, but for an on-camera audition, that's something that, because you have to like be walking in their shoes and let the producers like see you. You don't want them to have to try to imagine it, because if there's somebody else they have to imagine less, they'll cast them.
So what was the first anime convention you attended as a guest?
That was the Anime Boston. I think it was in like 2007 or 2008, and I was actually a guest of Funimation, which was premiering Peach Girl there, which was the first show that I ever worked on. So it was very cool.
Yeah, what was that like for you? Your first? Had you ever been to any type of convention before?
No, my understanding of anime was like Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, and Sailor Moon. So I was like amazed that they had a convention. I was like, just for those 3 shows? That's fantastic. And then I like walked in, there's like these crazy, wonderful, creative, brilliant weapons and costumes, and so my mom was with me, so we took pictures the entire weekend, and Anime Boston is such a huge convention with such a fantastic venue that it really broke me into like the anime convention circuit. So it was so much fun, and I couldn't wait to go to another one.
Awesome. how did it feel to be asked to go to the convention as a guest?
Well, Funimation asked me, so I didn't really understand how it worked. When I think I got asked to go to a convention called .con in Canada, and then I went to Anime USA in DC, and that was so humbling, and I was actually kind of baffled that anybody would like want me to go to their convention as a guest. They're like, yeah, you'll sign autographs. I was like, does anybody like want me? Like, that's weird. I'm just doing cartoon voices. And then I went there, and the support was so amazing. And I kind of got addicted to going to conventions just because, I mean, in high school I was a nerd and I got picked on, and so it was kind of nice to be in a huge environment where everybody is so supportive of anyone. And anybody will take anybody under their wing. It's like, it's a completely inviting, supportive place. And I love that. I love being a part of that.
Now, what kind of things were you into in high school that you were
I was oddly enough, I think I wanted to be a nerd just because I didn't want to be one of the popular kids, because I saw what they did to other people and what they did to me. And I was like, I never want to do that. So I would do, I was a freshman cheerleader. And then I was also on the debate team. So it was really weird that I'm like, oh, I can't go to practice because I gotta go practice my speech for debate, and I'm doing CX debating. So I was on the debate team, I was a cheerleader, I got into theater, I was also a techie, so I did like stage crew stuff and lighting and set design and all of that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be in band at my school. In Texas, everybody's super competitive. So if you're a cheerleader, you're a cheerleader. And if you're in theater, like, you only do plays. If you're in choir, that sucks up all your time. But I also did dance. My mom's a dance teacher, so I was doing ballet, tap, jazz, and point since I was like 2. So I did dance and always was doing acting and writing scripts and things like that, making jewelry. I'm a very creative person, so I like to try a million things.
Just try cosplay.
I would love to try cosplay. I love clothes, but I'm also a perfectionist, and if I let somebody down or did not, I feel like the expectations for me to do cosplay are so high, I would never be able to meet them.
Now, have you attended any conventions other than anime conventions, like comic conventions or straight sci-fi?
I've done a couple. I did MegaCon, I think, in Orlando, which was cool. I've never been to Comic-Con in San Diego, which I would love to go to Comic-Con in San Diego. That would be amazing. I am totally, I'm slowly but surely getting into comic books. I really, really love the Lock and Key series that Stephen King's son writes. And I'm open to finding new comic book series all the time. I'm trying to think what else I've gone to. Oh, New York Anime Fest and Comic-Con, so that was like a 2-for-1. And I love Eliza Dushku, and she was signing autographs right next to us. I think she's so fun. So yeah, definitely, I would love to be in like a sci-fi project on camera where I would get to do some crazy fighting and all that kind of stuff. I think that would be really fun.
Nice. So, what type of questions do you like people to ask you, like when they're in your panel and it's a Q&A session?
I don't know. I honestly, I'm a huge storyteller. Probably I tell more than anybody would ever want to know. So I think the worst panels are when everybody just like sits there and kind of stares at you and wants you. It's like blink, 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 the whole panel. Because what I love doing with panels is I like to have like a conversation with the people. I mean, if they're going to come and spend an hour with me, like I want to have a conversation and tell stories and entertain them and try to make it more of like a stand-up comedy, like this is my life kind of thing, and share funny things that have happened to me or my experiences. So I don't think there's a question that I don't like to answer. It's always hard when everybody's like, can you do that one line in that one show, in that one episode, like episode 37 of this, when episode, like 5 years ago, and I don't remember the scripts, because we don't get the scripts ahead of time. So we don't memorize them at all. So if they'll say like, just give me like a blanket response of what they might sound like, that's fine. or this is the line I want you to say, that's great. But if they're like, what was that one episode where she had on a blue dress, and I'm like, I don't know. So those always stress me out just because I don't want to like upset anybody. So yeah.
Now, besides how do I become a voice actor, and then the question of reading lines from past shows, what's the most common questions that you're asked?
People will always ask me like what it was like playing a certain character in a show. How I got started is one. Let's see, there's some other ones that I get asked a lot. Oh, are we getting subsequent seasons, or are we getting to do more episodes? I'm like, I don't know. They don't tell us that. They don't trust us with that serious lockdown information because they know I'm telling stories in my panel. It's going to slip out. I don't know. It's amazing to me that even as many panels as I go to, everybody asks different questions, or they're slightly different, or there's like a different, which just blows my mind because you think I'd get more repeat questions. Maybe I haven't done enough conventions.
Now, do you have any funny stories about attending conventions?
Yeah, I do have a funny story that recently occurred. I was at a convention, and it was a great small convention, and they said we want to do things that the attendees have never done with the guests that they can't get anywhere else. And I was like, okay, cool. And they said we have a guy there with I think it's Dragons on Forge, who crafts his own katanas, and he's a brilliantly talented, super knowledgeable man. And so I said, cool, okay, yeah, and they wanted to do a sword lesson with katanas. I was like, that sounds amazing. So he gave us this whole history and told us all these facts, and I was fascinated, and I thought it seemed really cool. And then he passed out all the katanas, and we were actually going to do a lesson. And he had told me that because I'm so short, I had to have a smaller katana, a Oaxaca shape, which is actually the ceremonial suicide sword because I was so short, and it has to be comparable to your height. And so I made a joke. I was like, so it's like The Hobbit, and I need a letter opener. And everyone was like, what? I'm like, oh, never mind.
Was that before the movie came out?
No, it was after the movie came out. And so I got my katana, and he had made it, and so it was like he'd never been touched before other than by this swordsmith gent, and they were telling us how to open the katana, and you have to pop the thumb to the side, and the blade has to be up because in tradition the blade could slice through the sheath, and so I had the blade up, and I couldn't get the sheath off. Like, I couldn't pop the sword like he was instructing us to do. And I was so stressed. I'm like, it's so embarrassing. I can't pop the sword. He was like, no, it's very snug. It's very snug in there because I made it. I was like, okay. So he popped it a little bit, and he was like, just let it stay here so that you can get it out easy and you can do the lesson. Well, it was so snug. I don't understand how this happened, but the sword started sliding out. And I like looked down, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I don't know what to do in this situation. So I like instinct kicked in, and I caught it with my thumb. And all of a sudden I looked down, I'm like, I am bleeding. This is unfortunate. And there's all these anime fans that are like staring at me, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with the katana. So I like, somebody like, I don't know, I don't even remember what happened, because I was like, oh, this is happening. And somebody like took the sword, they put it back in the sheath, and I'm like, oh, this is good. And I was like, it's just a flesh wound, everyone. No need, no, nothing. And I was like, Ani Python? No? Okay. And so I kept touching it because I wanted to make, I was like, it's gonna dry up. No, it kept bleeding. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And he turned around, my mom was in the room, and she rolls her eyes like my daughter would get herself cut in the first 5 seconds of having this katana. And so he looked at me and was like, well, we'll get some super glue. So they brought me a baby wipe to clean off the blood. It looked like I killed a small thumb, I guess, because that's what was happening. And we super glued my thumb back together, which I learned in the World War, I think it was World War II, maybe World War I, I'm not really sure. I was in shock from my thumb situation. But they created super glue to jet wounds and help them heal faster. So I super glued my thumb back together. It worked great, and then by the time the lesson was, the time my super glue had dried and the blood had stopped, the lesson was over, and I was so depressed. So I was like, well, here's this fantastic sword that caused me to bleed. And I was going to put it back on the table, and Rob said, actually, in Japanese tradition, if a sword bites you, it's yours. So it's like Harry Potter, and the wand has chosen me. And again, nothing. And I was like, oh no, this is my life right now. And so I was gifted the sword. So I have this fantastic katana that I really want to take lessons and learn how to wield the katana without slicing my thumb open. So I think that's probably the funniest, most ridiculous con story, because I don't think that happens to a lot of people. Like, it certainly doesn't happen to me very often. Yeah, so that's my funny con story.
What's the furthest you've ever traveled for a convention?
Probably, like, the furthest I would say would be another country, which would be Canada. I haven't gotten to go overseas for any conventions, which I would love to do, just because I love to travel. This year I'm going to be going to, I went to Saskatoon, and then I'll be going to Toronto and Vancouver. So I think that will be the most distance that I've traveled for a convention. I would love to travel more, but...
Are there any specific conventions you want to go to but haven't been invited to yet?
I know there's conventions in New Zealand and Australia, and I think there's one in London. I would love to do the ones overseas, just because I love the culture of Europe and the architecture and all the history that's there. I think it's so exciting. And I love to travel and learn about places that are the furthest from me, that I just don't understand. I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff, and people in general. Up until this year, I had been saying, like, I just want to go back to Anime Boston, because I remember I was like this wide-eyed, like, little girl when I went to Anime Boston the first time, and so I got to go back this year, and I would love to go back again. It was fantastic. I've done a few repeat conventions. I haven't been to a convention, actually, where I thought, like, I never want to attend this convention again. It's been pretty great. So, yeah.
Do you have any roles coming up soon that you can tell people about that you're currently working on, or anything you did recently?
Yes, I am in a show called Sword Art Online that will be airing on Toonami in August, and I play Asuna. I'm playing Lucy in Fairy Tale, which there's still more of that. I'm trying to think what is some of the ones that I'm allowed to talk about. I'm doing a web series, ideally, called The Walking Ted, which is a combination Oreo of The Walking Dead and Ted. So I think I'll be posting links on my Facebook, which is Cherami Leigh, and then you can find it that way, and on Twitter, of course, when we're starting a Kickstarter, so everybody can see my character. She's a 15-year-old, very feisty, voodoo sort of princess, angsty teenager, so that should be fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had these colored hair extensions, which I've been wanting to use forever, so that was a blast.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.